Meet Alice Ross, Deputy News Editor at the Financial Times. She's been a journalist there for more than a decade, writing on a range of financial topics, plus holding roles as Deputy Editor of the Week in Money section, Editor of the Wealth magazine, and Editor of the newsletter Trade Secrets, which examines issues affecting globalization, including climate change.
If you think about the greenest thing you, as an individual, can do from the comfort of your home, you'll probably picture recycling, going vegan, or using less water, gas, and electricity. Actually, choosing where to put your money could have a much bigger impact, because in many cases, the institutions we trust with our savings, investments, pensions, even our current accounts are investing in fossil fuels. And the total volume of that investment has grown each year since 2016, when world leaders signed the Paris Agreement on climate change to limit global warming compared to pre-industrial levels. So, could moving your finances be the greenest thing you ever do? Let's look at some of the arguments for and against. Recent analysis estimates 35 of the world's biggest banks have financed fossil fuel companies to the tune of a collective $2.7 trillion since the Paris Agreement was signed. JP Chase tops the rankings, lending $269 billion over the last 4 years. Seventh-placed Barclays leads its competitors in Europe, contributing $118 billion over the same period. The money in your current account is probably ring-fenced from the investment arms of these banks, but that hasn't stopped green organisations running high-profile campaigns, urging customers to take their money elsewhere. Some have even brought in some celebrity firepower.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda. This video is not for you, it's for someone else. That person is Jamie Dimon, CEO of Chase. Jamie, move Chase's money out of coal, oil, and gas now. If you don't, we'll leave your bank. We'll cut up our Chase cards and find a better bank.
For anyone tempted to make the switch, there have never been more green banks to choose from. By the end of 2019, there were almost 30 institutions recognised by the Green Finance Institute for their sustainable investment practices. But dropping your bank for environmental reasons isn't as cut and dried as you might think. Many argue the biggest fossil fuel backers have a significant influence on the energy sector. And as a customer of that backer, you have more power to steer their decisions from within. It's the same story with your investments. Bill Gates famously said that so far, fossil fuel divestment has had zero climate impact, because new investors have been ready to pick up any stocks, shares, or funds being sold off. Meanwhile, fossil fuel lenders have already started to shift their investment policies, thanks in no small part to shareholder action around climate issues. In February 2020, NatWest pledged to become Paris-aligned. This was followed by climate pledges from Barclays in March, Morgan Stanley in September, JP Chase and HSBC in October, and TD Bank in November. Last year was also a record for sustainable funds. Total assets in these funds reached $1.7 trillion, up 50% over the year. So when it comes to personal investments, just as with banks, green options are available, both within traditional institutions and beyond. Where our options may be more limited is in our choice of pension. According to a recent study of global pension assets, 22 major pensions markets now manage nearly $47 trillion between them. That's about half of all the money invested in the global financial system. And so far, little of it has been directed towards sustainable projects. In 2018, for example, less than 1% of assets in the world's largest 100 pension funds were invested in low-carbon solutions. This has led campaigners like Richard Curtis to make action on pensions their top priority.
People are going to realize what a piece of Finnish research says, that changing where your money is invested is in fact 27 times more effective in reducing your carbon footprint, for instance, than going vegan, taking fewer flights and using less water, all put together.
The process isn't simple and it can introduce more risk. But if you want to make your pension more green, there are online resources with advice on how to do it, either by switching your money to a more sustainable pension fund offered by your provider, or by switching provider altogether. When it comes to personal finances, we each have the choice to stick or twist. It's a personal choice, and climate change may be just one factor among many in that thought process. But if you do want to make your voice heard on climate change, then moving your money, or threatening to move it, could be a powerful tool of persuasion. Whatever you decide, it's never been easier to act than right now.
Well, fantastic to have you with us on the show, Alice Ross. Would you like to add anything since this film was recorded?
Well, we made that film quite recently at the FT, actually, so it's fairly up to date. It's basically covering a lot of the stuff that I say in my book, Investing to Save the Planet, which came out in November last year, which is really looking at this issue of, as climate conscious consumers, we often think about reducing our carbon footprint. And we know, we've known for years the kind of things that we should be doing on that front. We know about recycling, we know about flying less, we know about eating less meat. But I think a lot of us haven't really thought about our money, where we bank, our savings, our investments, our pensions. And we haven't realized that there are now options if you want to go down that road. So that's why I wrote this book, really.
How has your book been received, Alice?
I hope it's been received well. I had a nice quote from Al Gore saying that it was a very important topic. Richard Curtis as well, who currently has a campaign himself aimed specifically at pensions and making our pensions greener. And I've gotten great feedback from people that have read it. So I'm hoping that it will help to make something of a difference.
Well, terrific. It's a very important book. So, Nick, what questions do you have for yourself or from the viewers?
Yeah,
Alice?
nothing specific from the viewers, but hi, Alice.
Hi.
My question really is that you often hear a lot of people write books, a lot of people speak out on things that we need to do for climate change, but often they don't really think that they have to do things themselves, personally, as it were, in the sense of what you're describing. So have you pulled your pension out of one company and gone somewhere else? Or do you know friends at the FT that have read your book and go, wow, I'm going to do that too? I mean, do you think people really act on this kind of information, or do you think it's like, yeah, it's something I can maybe do next week?
I think that having been a financial journalist for, about 15 years now, I think there is something to what they say about, what's that phrase about doctors' wives getting sick or something, or shoemakers' wives going barefoot. I think as a financial journalist, particularly at the FT, I think you have to be a little bit careful where you're investing and what you're doing, because it's sort of a matter of public scrutiny sometimes. Yeah. That said, I obviously do make sure that my finances are in line with my values. I certainly bank ethically, for example. And yeah, people have told me that they've looked into switching because of reading my book. So that's really great. Yeah, so I think hopefully it is having an impact. I mean, I do understand that, with everything else that we've all got going on, sorting out your finances can just seem like one more thing that you have to do, one more thing on the to-do list. And so, of course, I understand that. But, I have tried to sort of make it seem as simple as possible in the book and, demystify some of the jargon around green investing, which, there's a lot, it being the financial industry, they love acronyms, they love jargon. So I've tried to make it accessible. So I hope that will help people to take that step.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Alice Ross.